In today's video, we're going to chat about the Fearful Avoidant Attachment Style, which is also named the Disorganized Attachment. Welcome to this channel. My name is Patrycja Mohocka, if we haven't met before. I am the owner of the Love and Thrive School. I'm a relationship coach and I specialize in attachment theory. So I help people to shift from surviving to thriving and building a life of love, safety, and freedom. Let's chat about the Fearful Avoidant Attachment Style, which is one of the 4 attachment styles. The one attachment style is secure, and then we have 3 other insecure attachments. We have the anxious preoccupied, which are also called the love addicts. Then we have the avoidant, which is the dismissive avoidant rather, and they are called the love avoidant or the emotionally unavailable individuals. And then we have the fearful avoidant, or like I said, the disorganized attachment, which is, just to say it plainly, a combination of the anxious as well as the avoidant. However, there is this special characteristic that is only applicable to the fearful avoidance. And that stems from how this attachment style actually originated. So what happened to create somebody who is or who has a fearful avoidant attachment style? Because attachment styles can be changed, so we can't say that somebody is a fearful avoidant attachment style. They have this attachment style which they can change and become earned secure attachment. But that's a topic for another video, so let's stick to this one. So the main thing that happens to a person that creates this attachment style is chaos when they're growing up, or some kind of trauma when they were in their teens or perhaps adults. So something had to have happened where the person who they loved also became the person who they were afraid of. So that is that different component that the dismissive avoidant and the anxious preoccupied person doesn't have versus the fearful avoidant. That's why the word fearful is included in the name of this attachment style, is because the people who have this attachment style fear the people who they love. And they often question, is the person who I'm in love with good for me? If they've been through narcissistic abuse, they question, is the person I'm in love with a narcissist? Am I the narcissist? So constantly they can be flip-flopping between the fear of the love and attachment and the love for the person. So how does that happen? It can happen in very simple ways. Perhaps one of their parents, the mom or the dad, was short-tempered. In one moment they were very sweet and open and loving, and on the other hand they were aggressive and volatile. Sorry, so these are my blinds in the other room. I forgot to close the door. I hope it doesn't bother you too much. The other options were that the parents were abusive and there was serious trauma. The parents could have also been addicted. Whatever happened, there was a lot of switching between moods, and this created a hypervigilance within the child, or perhaps if this developed later on in life, there was a lot of hypervigilance in the household where the individual thought, you know what, I don't know what's going on here. I can't figure out like a set strategy for surviving this environment and having my needs met. And nobody says anything. They just all of a sudden explode, or they become aggressive or do things that scare me. So I need to fine tune all my senses. So that means my sense of sight, without even realizing, the individual will then tune in and read micro expressions of the face, body language. They might be very tuned into the sounds that they hear around them, and often struggle with honing in their attention. So I know a lot of fearful avoidance, although this is not always the case, but a lot of fearful avoidants struggle with focusing. A lot of the time they need to be in a quiet space where they feel calm, or perhaps they have soothing music on, and then they can focus. Often when there are other people in the space, their nervous system is scanning constantly and figuring out what those people are doing. And the high degree of hypervigilance can also be called empathy, or being an empath for a lot of people, where the fearful avoidant often feels what other people in their environment are feeling as a way to figure out how they need to act in order to be safe. So this is a survival mechanism. It is phenomenal when you have to be in those type of environments. However, later on in life, a lot of people find this to be extremely taxing, because some people feel very drained by constantly processing other people's emotions. So this I find extremely interesting, and I think I should just do a video on just hypervigilance and empathy, because you guys have asked me to keep these videos shorter to 15 minutes. So I'm going to try to do that without talking like a speedy bug. I don't know what a speedy bug is, but that's the idea that popped into my head. So I'm going to take a breath. Let's take a breath. All right. Now, for the other characteristics of the fearful avoidant attachment style. Now, in my video about the anxious and the avoidant, you might want to go see that, because the fearful avoidant will display the characteristics of both, and they can also be polarized to either depending on the person they are interacting. So I will link those videos in the description below. Have a look at them, because you might spot some of those characteristics. So for the other attachment styles, especially the anxious, I have included things like their appearance and body language. However, with the fearful avoidant, it's a lot more difficult to spot that from the word go. What you would see in body language, definitely from the word go, is that they might be very tuned into you, pretty much like the anxious, preoccupied individual. They might be looking at you, and the fearful avoidants often have this super intense stare, like sometimes I have. So I actually made a point to look away sometimes and look back at a person, because sometimes it looks like the fearful avoidant is looking right into your soul and knows all your deeper secrets. And sometimes they do. And this fact, this little trick, this reading and hypervigilance is sometimes what gets them into trouble, because they assume a lot of things. And sometimes it's not always true. So if you're a fearful avoidant, just check it out. Like, are you reading and assuming things about a person? Because that can really sabotage your relationships. All right, getting back to the topic. I feel like there is just so much that you need to know about this. Wow, okay. So I'm just going to kind of like go with the list, but also channel some of this information that I feel is being useful and perhaps not discussed in other videos on YouTube. Another part of body language that you might see over time, if you're their friend, is that sometimes they will be huggy and kissy, and sometimes they will be removed. So they will not, like the anxious, preoccupied, mostly be huggy, kissy, and touchy. Okay, anxious, preoccupied usually like closeness. The fearful avoidant, because they flip-flop between being fearful and being avoidant, they will also flip-flop in how they greet you, their energy levels, sometimes their personality. They can sometimes be a chameleon. So when they are with a certain group of individuals, they will adapt to that social circle. And often this is phenomenal, because they can change jobs, places they live, their everything, they look. They can chop and change and be in every single situation. They can most probably like rough it out and go camping in the mountains, and at the same time they can go and live the 5-star lifestyle. So they have this amazing ability to shapeshift and adapt. And sometimes for them, they might feel very detached from themselves. Like, oh, who am I really? They love this part about themselves a lot of the time, that I can be like, hey, I can just go with the flow. I can chop and change. I'm not set in my ways. My mind is even flexible. However, over time, they might also question like, hey, who am I amongst all of these different personalities? Talking patterns. Also, very changeable. Sometimes when they feel safe and they are energized, they will talk to you a lot. And when they are talking to you, they will ask you a lot of questions because, first of all, they are very curious about other people. They're interested, and their questions are going to be like deep. How was your childhood? Did you experience any trauma? What is your passion? So they're usually quite intense, and they will go right for the deep things, or perhaps you will even sense the depth in them and just start opening up immediately and think, wow, I don't actually share this deeply with anybody else, but I feel like I can share this with the fearful avoidant. And for the fearful avoidant, on one part, this is awesome because they're like, wow, people just open up to me. Sometimes they don't even know that they have this ability. And sometimes they know it because sometimes it's taxing to them because they don't know how to take up space themselves in conversations and relationships. So they might feel like I'm always asking the questions, I'm always supporting and helping everybody else. However, people don't take interest in me. But if you think about it, if you're always the one talking and asking questions, nobody can ask you questions. And often when they do ask you questions, you will go more into your shell and not talk about your vulnerable feelings. Even though you might talk about your trauma and all the events that happened, you might not talk about what it is that you need in the moment, what it is that you're struggling with. So fearful avoidants really struggle to ask for help. They believe that vulnerability is weak, very much like the avoidant types, the dismissive avoidants. And they believe that they have to do it all themselves. So usually they are high-functioning human beings, and because they feel so unworthy within themselves due to the trauma that happened in the past, they will overcompensate and be everything for everybody, put in the extra hours at work, try to be better and work harder, whether that is at their sport or that is at work, in their relationship. They really give a lot of themselves. And this will also lead them to periodic burnout. So they might experience burnout within the week cycle. So say from Monday to Sunday, right? So like Monday, they're like, okay, I'm restored and I'm going to give and do everybody else's work for them and just like input, and because they love it, right? They also love vibing at that high level, and then they feel depleted. And then they're like, don't talk to me, get away from me. And then they get snappy when people ask them for things because they have already extended themselves. They've put so much pressure on themselves. They're also very perfectionistic. So they have already put so much pressure on themselves. They must probably criticize themselves a lot worse than anybody else could ever criticize them. And they have much higher standards for themselves than anybody else can have for them. So they already feel extended. And then when somebody else asks them for something, it's like the straw that breaks the camel's back. And often they will then be volatile, which takes me to the conflict situations and how they react with conflict. And usually they will be passive aggressive. So for a long period of time, or maybe not even long period of time, this could be weekly, monthly, everybody's got a different period, but a lot of the time they will sweep things under the rug and then eventually blow up. So this is a tip for you if you're a fearful avoidant and you're trying to work on those anger tendencies and resentment, which a lot of fearful avoidants have, is to first of all stop overextending yourself. You are okay as you are. You are doing a lot more and giving a lot more than you imagine. You can step back like even 50% a lot of the time, and ask people for help, which other people will appreciate. and the people who don't appreciate it, then you know, like their mission or their place in your life, if there is any, right? That will become apparent. But you can just step back a little bit and also speak about your boundaries, because now we're coming to the boundaries. You don't have good ones. You have either no boundaries, like the anxious preoccupied individual, which is like a free-for-all, and I'm giving and I'm just helping and supporting. And on the other hand, you have these slammed down walls which come down when all of a sudden you realize you are depleted, or you realize that you are not getting back what other people are giving you. But if you really think about it, can other people give you what you're giving them? And I always laugh because I say, you know what, it takes a certain amount of trauma to be so hyper attuned and aware to everybody else and what everybody else needs. So you're not aware, if you're the fearful avoidant watching this, or if you're their partner, they are not aware of how much they're giving. They are not aware of how much they're doing in their lives. They don't have those, like the speedometer, you know, it's not very clear. They often pushing themselves to the limit, and that's what's causing a lot of the anger, frustration, and then hurt, because they're also expecting other people to do the same thing in return. Okay, and other people have boundaries and different levels of energy that they're trying to maintain and sustain. So I think one of the biggest tips, I'm going to go there straight away to just attach it to this point, is that fearful avoidance will feel a lot less resentful and hurt, right? Because underneath the anger and volatility is hurt. It's just feeling really rejected, unmet, unwanted, because people are not giving back as much as they are putting in. And you know, other people can't put in that much, because you see what it's doing to you. It's depleting you completely. So people have limits and boundaries. Get some, babe. Or tell your partner, like, hey, get some boundaries, because I don't like this fluctuation of you extending yourself and doing things for me, and then at the same time being angry with me because I can't do the same thing for you. Okay, so where are we now? Let's go into their fears and core wounds. Okay, so each fearful avoidant, of course, is different, and they will have different fears and core wounds. But predominantly, if you think about a person who has been in situations where they're with their parents or their past lover, who is loving and at the same time scary, okay, it's going to be very difficult to trust. So fearful avoidants really struggle to trust people. They're really scared to be betrayed. And betrayal doesn't only happen with cheating. There can be just betrayal in so many different ways. Unmet expectations can be betrayal. So they really fear betrayal. They often feel unsafe in their body. And of course, like the the anxious preoccupied and the dismissive avoidant, they also have the abandonment fear. And the fearful avoidant might also have the fear of being engulfed by the relationship. So fears and core wounds are kind of like the same thing. And the shadow that they're experiencing is that overgiving, prioritizing everybody else in their lives and not themselves, not being true to themselves. And the shadow aspect is self-betrayal. Ouchie, right? Like you're focusing so much on everybody else telling you the truth and not betraying you, that you completely have blindsided yourself and not realize that, hey, the one that's really betraying me and prioritizing everybody else and foregoing my own needs is myself. And that's a big tip to really pull back and start taking care of yourself, so that you can also stop feeling used in life. So I'm going to keep it nice and short and neat. I hope this wasn't too long. Let me know in the comments what you think. And the tips for healing anger is just to pull back how much you're giving and doing, get some boundaries, Speak about vulnerable feelings and speak about boundaries way, way, way before. Like those little small upsets that you don't let yourself experience and you think, oh, it's not a big deal. I'm not going to say anything about it. The next time it happens, I'm going to XYZ. No, speak about it there and then when you have enough emotional control. Then you will not lose it a few days or weeks down the line. And then also take better care of yourself. Stop overcompensating. Stay true to yourself. If you need rest, take the rest. Ask people for what you need, and in a way that people can hear that this is a need. Okay? Don't be coy. Don't minimize things. Just speak it out. I really need support, and I see support coming in XYZ ways. And then you will start to notice that people will actually want to give to you, and you will then notice who are the people who are just leeching from you, and then you know what to do. All right, so let me know if this was a little bit more digestible, and then I'll make more videos in this format. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for watching, and I'm sending you big love till I see you next time. Bye.